Hi, and welcome to Outdoor Skills Workshops with CSUSB Adventure. I'm Renee, and today I'm going to be teaching you all about trip planning. Now, CSUSB Adventure usually offers around 50 trips every single quarter, but during times like these, it's nice to be confident in being able to plan your own trip. The first step in trip planning is picking a destination. There's a few things you should consider before you actually pick a place. First is whether you've been to this place before or not. The second is considering the season, as this can change your packing list and itinerary. And the third would be experience, abilities, and any extra supplies you might need. Now, these kind of fall into the same category as they can really change the kind of trip that you're looking for. If you're looking for a full list of all the supplies you may need for any trip, you should check out our video on the Outdoor 10 Essentials. Now let's talk about what you're traveling to your destination for. Here is where you're going to need access to the internet, or where your travel books might need dusting off. Now, there's usually two major routes for going exploring. The first is touristy hotspots, and the second is checking out local culture. By touristy hotspots, I'm talking about what this place is known for. Usually it's found on the top 10 must-see or do list, or it can include local hikes, recreation, architecture, all the things that this place is famous for. Now, when you're traveling to a tourist attraction, you should consider how many people are going to be there and how that can affect your experience. It can be hotter, more crowded, and it might be hard to see the thing you're actually going there for. The second type of exploring I want to mention is checking out the local culture that this destination offers. Now, this can be fun, but you should consider that these places might be hard to get to, hard to find, they might be hard to interact with, or they might not have very many people around. Now, this can be a problem, especially when you're considering your safety in this place, and what you're going to do if you get hurt, and the resources that you can have. Let's look at the difference between finding tourist attractions and looking up local culture.
Here, I chose San Diego as an example. As you can tell, there's a lot of best things to do. However, a lot of these lists will overlap in content, and it's really up to you to choose and narrow down what you want to see on your trip. Next up, we have local culture. Again, I chose a very simple search. However, these lists will tend to differ a lot, as local culture will have a different definition between each list.
Now that you've picked your destination and have narrowed down the things that you want to see there are three major things that can define your trip: budget, transportation, and timing. The first thing I want to mention is budget. You should have a set budget outline before you begin planning your trip. This is because it's really easy to spend outside of your budget when you're already having fun, traveling, doing what you want to do. But this can also limit your trip if you have a set amount that you need to spend. So the things you should consider under budget are what you're going to be spending on souvenirs, food, snacks, water. If you are in an emergency, you need to make sure that you have extra money just in case you need to buy food or water. The two major things that will impact your budget are gas and entrance fees. It's really easy to start planning a trip and then underestimate how much gas will be. Next, when you're picking sites to see, you want to make sure that you do your research and see if there's any entrance or parking fees that might add up on your trip that you weren't expecting. Let's take a look at a possible budget.
As you can see, this budget is very organized. This is not the expectation every time. I just want to highlight that they included sites and activities, food and drink, and shopping. These are going to be the main things that will add up in your total budget, and they have a total travel budget that they can expect.
The second trip definer is transportation. There's a couple questions that you want to ask yourself before deciding on how you're going to get to your destination. How reliable is your transportation? Is it going to fit all of your friends and baggage? And do you have any emergency supplies in case your transportation has issues? You also want to account for gas stops that you might need to make, and if there are any access roads to your destination. For example, some destinations have really bumpy or rocky roads that might not be great for low-sitting cars. Our last trip definer is time. This is essential for creating your itinerary. There are two major things you need to keep in mind when starting to create your itinerary. You want to be planning for how many days you're going to be there, and you should create start and stop times for each day. This will kind of create a boundary for what time you're going to spend in each place and how you're going to be spending your days. Now, obviously, you can be pretty flexible here. You don't have to say you're going to be up at 6 a.m. and if you wake up at 7, the trip is over. The most important thing is flexibility when creating your itinerary. When we plan trips at CSUSB Adventure, we make sure that we allot times for arrival and departure. We set times for when we're going to arrive at a certain destination, what time we plan to leave. We make sure that we include times for lunch, snacking, and making sure that we are keeping our focus on actually exploring. As an example, here's one of the itinerary that CSUSB Adventure has used on one of its trips.
Here is an itinerary I created for CSUSB Adventure's La Jolla Snorkel and Hike trip. Note the times on the sides and how each activity has a description. I include prices if possible, examples for where to eat, and any extra details necessary for carrying out the trip.
The best tip I have for you here is to give yourself time. When you're planning your trip, it's really easy to not really account for all the rest breaks you need or maybe the amount of time that you want to spend in one place. I hinted at it a little bit just now, but the last thing that I want to mention on trip definers is your ability to be flexible. You can plan your trip as much as you want, but the one thing that you can't allot for is changes. As any leader at CSUSB Adventure can tell you, any bump in the road can become the best part of your trip. I hope after watching this video, you feel comfortable planning your own trip. Or if you want to see one in action, you can join CSUSB Adventure on its next one. Stay safe and happy trails.